alert.
Okay, bye.
Good luck.
Have a good
Get
evening.
well soon.
Is it 6:30 yet? Almost. 2 more minutes.
What's wrong with David? I didn't catch that.
David had back surgery today.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm glad it's surgery and not COVID.
Yeah. I'm surprised he's at home.
Yeah.
I had ACDF fusion, and they sent me home within 24 hours of that. It was 5 of 7 they fused in my neck.
Wow.
So they ship you out pretty quickly now. I think you're more at risk in the hospital is what they assume than what you are at home. So they like to keep you comfortable in home now. Nosocomial infections are huge.
Randy, I haven't seen your face yet.
Oh, hi. Yes, I'm Randy Stevens. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And you are a Marmalade community member.
Yes, sir. That I am.
Excellent. Wonderful. Good. More and more people. I think Zoom is more popular than the Marmalade Library.
Well, it's not open right now, so I don't know that that's a fair. I haven't gotten to go. So we moved here in February, and right around after we got things moved into the house and unpacked, they shut everything down because of COVID. So we haven't been to the library.
All right. Well, you can look forward to that. It's a nice library.
I do look forward to it. I have 2 little ones that are very eager to go. So, but yeah, I did send a notification that y'all were having a meeting on Nextdoor and the Nextdoor app today to kind of promote and see if anybody would come. But they were having trouble with the link, so I ended up sending them directly to the website and told them where to look at it and try to join in from. So I'm hoping some people pick up from that.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thanks for
I
doing
put it
that.
on Nextdoor also, and I had the same comment. I don't know why the link, and I don't know what happened because I copied it directly from your thing. But when I go to your website, it worked great, but the copying didn't work. I don't know why.
You know, stuff happens. I don't know why that happens sometimes.
But I did go in and tell them to go directly to the website. So hopefully that worked. Hi, Brian. Did you get, I saw your email.
Oh, great. Thanks.
All right. Let me ask before we actually open the meeting. I see your face, Chris. Is Officer Gibic anywhere in the screen? I don't see him.
Ian.
Okay. Eva, have we seen her yet?
No, I know she's planning on being here though.
Okay. Jen Daily-Provost has a meeting at the Capitol building. She might join us a little bit later. Katherine Kennedy, she sometimes joins later.
We've got Polly Hart, which is awesome.
Hello, Polly Hart.
Hello.
Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
All right, welcome everybody. This is our August meeting and I'm the vice chairman and David is ill, so I'll be running the meeting today. As you probably all know, we're going to hear from 2 homelessness specialists in Salt Lake. I actually work at the same facility that they are in. And I'll introduce them later. Are they, either of them online yet? Amanda or Kathy?
I'm trying to get, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm just getting on.
There you are. I see your face.
Okay. Very
Before
good.
you start the meeting, can I make a request? I know that there's sometimes chats, and I had one pop up. Can y'all send the chat from the meeting along with the, I know you post the YouTube, but when the Zoom meeting closes, we have no access to that. And there are a lot of people that say, hey, email me or message me or call me, and we lose that when it closes.
Does anyone have an answer to that question?
It does get lost except for the owner of the Zoom account. So
Yeah, that's.
I'll copy it out before
Yeah.
we move out the event.
I'm on an iPhone, so what I do is I just take a screenshot of the chat. That doesn't help people on laptops, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say I may actually take my iPhone and take a picture of the screen.
You should probably get going,
Thank
huh, John?
you.
The
Hi,
chat
Brian.
is recorded. It's saved as a text file.
Okay.
All
And
right.
Randy, I'll copy and paste it, and then put it in the YouTube video, and I'll put it down in the description.
Thank you very much. Thank
But
you. Because there's a
thanks
lot
for
of good
mentioning that.
information in there. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
think, oh, it's
It's
okay. I
also,
think,
it's also possible to take a screenshot from a computer, just saying.
All right. All right.
I'll figure it out. Thank you. If not.
You have to
You're
go into
welcome.
settings and stuff. I've done it, and mine's a little icon now, but I don't remember how it got there. I mean, I know I put it there, but it's been too long ago.
Sorry.
All right. I don't, Dan, do we have any minutes to approve, or is that going to come later?
Forthcoming, John. Sorry.
Okay. All right. That'll come electronically later, minutes from last month's meeting. My first announcement is we have a vacancy on the board, and if there is a community member out there who would like to fill that vacancy for the remainder of the year, please let us know. Andrea Ashcroft left the board due to other responsibilities, so we're looking for someone.
Hey, John, on
Yeah.
that, it looks like there are 6 slots available on the board.
All right, why don't we,
Six seats.
the instructions I got from David was open it up for one person. Why don't we bring that up in our board meeting and see if we're going to open it up for more?
Those come in November, Brian, when the
Yeah.
terms expire.
It says, well, actually, we can talk about it later because I looked at it and we should talk about it in the board
All right,
meeting.
let's
Yeah.
talk about it later. Is Officer Gibic with us yet? I guess not. Chris, you are next on the list. Could we get a report from Chris Wharton, our city councilman?
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for having me. What I wanted to talk about is, got my list here. Wasn't quite ready. Is the change. So we know that budget's already been adopted for the city. We just last night approved the CIP, the Capital Improvements Program budget for this year. So that's underway. We also formally adopted a resolution establishing the Commission on Equity in Policing. So they'll get started on issuing their recommendations to the council soon. We're getting close to completing everything, or completing the ordinance on e-scooters. And that ordinance will allow the city to impose much more regulations on e-scooters, and then also charge user fees to help cover the costs of regulating e-scooters. And I know that's been a concern for a number of people. We're continuing to work, I'm continuing to work with the Capitol Hill Neighborhood Council Transportation Committee and Brian, trying to address issues that we talked about in the June meeting. We'll be having a meeting soon with working right now to try and get a meeting set up with the mayor and try to get more direction from her office on what we can expect to see moving forward on those issues that were identified by the committee. We've had several meetings since our last community council meeting. I think those have been good and productive. I wanted to remind everybody with regard to what's going on in the with the Commission on Equity and Policing. I've gotten a lot of emails from people, mostly people that are, I would say, in support of the protesters and in support of making serious changes to the police department. A lot of people asking for us to defund the police department. Of course, state law requires Salt Lake City to have a police department. So that's not something that we are looking at seriously or can be looking at because of state law. But if people, I haven't gotten very much feedback from people in our neighborhood about it one way or the other. So I would love for people to write in and tell me your thoughts about what you would like to see in terms of police reform, questions about policing, etc. I know that there was a claim going around that the police officers are currently down 40%. Well, some people were saying they're down 40% from where they typically were. Others are saying they saw a 40% drop, which they were already at a 20% drop, which would mean 60%. That's not accurate. I've asked for the numbers from the administration, and the police are operating at the same capacity this year that they were last year. So there hasn't been a drop in levels of service from the police department, although the council has made some did make some pretty significant changes to the police budget in the overall budget that was approved back in June. I'm happy to answer.
Can I ask you a question about that? I know you said that the numbers themselves have not dropped in the number of police officers, but the way that those officers are responding to calls versus like, and it may be just rumors, hearsay, some of them are being sent to where the protesting is happening, and a lot of those hours are being used up from those versus the ones that are on the street. Is that true?
Well, certainly it can be true, depending on the protest. Like if it's some of the bigger ones, yes, officers have had to be pulled from different areas, but the vast majority of protesters have not had any police presence. I think the greater demand right now on officers has been addressing that we continue to see negative fallout from closing the Rio Grande shelter, which the city opposed, which has pushed a lot of the criminal element that we saw in Rio Grande into neighborhoods, and that I think is actually causing more of a strain on our officers than the protests are.
I've personally called law enforcement and had them call them that morning and them not call me back at all, or call back the next or that evening, at 11 o'clock at night. So that's what they're saying, that they are overwhelmed, and that's the reason why. I just was wondering if you knew the exact reasoning behind why they cannot respond to the calls.
That's happened in years past too. That's not a new thing.
Okay, I'm just
so they don't always respond, and that's been
okay.
Thing.
I'm new to the area, so I didn't know if that was a normal thing or if that was something that was just, if there was some direct result of something. That's why I was asking. I'm sorry about that.
No, I don't think it's related to protests at all.
Okay.
I've had that experience for many years now.
Yes. No need to apologize. Anybody can ask any questions they have.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, Chris, let me get this straight. You're saying that people are saying there's less police officers on the force now, and your numbers say that there are just as many as there were before. Is that right?
Well, they're not my numbers. They're the numbers from the police department, from the administration, that show that the police they're down 5% in their capacity, which is the same amount, but they were down 5% in 2019, in July and August of 2019 as well.
Can you send that to me?
Yeah.
Can you? Okay, thank you.
Yes, let me write that down.
And I wanted to say the ones that have responded have been phenomenal. We've had to call them for domestic issues in the area. We've had to call them for theft. A few things. The ones that have responded have been very, very, they've been super sweet with my children. They've been super sweet, in handling it. Just very, very standout, nice. And I met with Detective Gibic. No complaints on the responses that were given. I didn't ask that question as to why we're having such delayed response times. And that was one of the concerns I had, is like, what prioritizes the response? Because when someone is actively on my porch that is stolen and is trying to steal something else again, I would think that I would have gotten a call back.
Yeah.
And so or, things like that. It's just, it's kind of alarming to me, knowing that they may not respond, or they may respond so late that it doesn't matter at that point because they've already gotten away with it.
Yeah, sure. No, I definitely understand that concern, and it is a concern that other residents have voiced before, not just this year, but in prior years as well. But also welcome to the neighborhood. Sorry.
No worries. We got here just in time for a pandemic, and earthquake, and riots. It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Still better than home. I will tell you, you guys have a gorgeous state and a wonderful community. I will tell you, we left with expectations that it would be definitely a better, and y'all far exceeded it. It's a beautiful area, and it's a safe area, and we love the schools, and we love the neighborhood. Just a few little tweaks here and there that we'd love to work out with you guys.
Where did you come from?
Louisiana, Baton Rouge.
Okay,
Beautiful.
great.
So I'm your neighborhood cook for Cajun food, if you got the beignets and etouffee over here.
Yeah, awesome. Other questions?
Okay. Chris, have you wrapped it up or not yet?
Just one final thing I wanted to remind everybody is that you may have read in the newspaper that the mayor convened a committee to redesign the city flag. If you haven't already taken the survey, it closes tomorrow. So if that's something that you're interested in, please take some time and fill out that survey so we can get that information to the flag committee. It looks like Glenn has a question.
Yeah, what is the role of the council in Erin Mendenhall's police reform? I think she has 5 items for police reform. Is the council playing a role in that, or is that strictly on the executive side?
All of the ones that were in the mayor's executive or in the mayor's order are executive in nature, so they didn't require the council's input at all. The council, though, does have 2 ordinances that are currently in the works. One banning the use of military-grade weapons and equipment for the city, and the other, I've consistently, and the rest of the council have voted those down the last 3 years, any requests for them, but we don't want to even have the requests anymore. So that's forthcoming. And then another is changes to the Police Civilian Review Board ordinance, just kind of making modifications to that, strengthening the power of the board under the existing law.
Great, thank you, Chris.
Thank you. All right, thanks. If other people have questions, you can ask them in the chat, and I'm happy to try and respond.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, good to see you all.
Good to see you. I don't see any other elected officials on the screen. Are there any out there that I haven't seen?
No, but Ava's here now.
April?
Ava.
Ava. I missed you, Ava.
Hey, thanks for having me. Sorry, I was a few minutes late because I was attending the Downtown Community Council, but really excited to be here. Thank you all for logging in. I shared quickly to follow up with Council Member Wharton's SLC flag design. I linked it there, and then I linked the 7 police reform policies, and I'm happy to go into detail there. If you all want to open that link, that's actually the executive order I linked there, and it goes into talking the specifics. There are obvious constraints that a city can limit in police reform, but within these confounds, we looked at prioritizing the accountability and the safety of both residents and officers. When officers respond to an emergency or call, these changes allow them to do their job more effectively without having concerns that something or an accident or some sort of overhaul of force will be used. And so these policies, they are nothing that creates conflict in their work, but actually helps these officers respond really well also. And I wanted to go into that. We can keep going talking about policing. Our Salt Lake City joined GARE Network, which is, as you may have seen, we are looking at racial equity. So GARE is a network of cities and different resources that we can look at as we respond to looking at different police brutality tactics to stop police brutality and to respond to these divisions that we see. I also wanted to talk about in bringing in our BLM art that was finished. It's a beautiful commission. It is probably the largest and most grand BLM mural in front of the city county building. If you have time to stop by and see it. If not, I have a link of a picture that you can see overhead. And of course, that is something that is symbolic of the change of our city. But again, it's something that the mayor felt deeply to do because it symbolizes the change that our city and country are going through. And so we wanted to recognize that change. Along with addressing inequities, we have started the Rose Park Connect program, which allows Wi-Fi to be used, and it's outside the LDS ward. Let me get you that address here. It is located at 760 North and 1200 West, and it's really great. You can use computers on the inside if you hear of anybody that needs to pay bills, pay their rent, connect with somebody, use any sort of Wi-Fi connection that they didn't have before, or maybe they were unable to keep up with their utilities, so they no longer have that. Now we're trying to respond as best as possible, and we've had other communities reach out saying we'd like one of those in our neighborhood. So the city is looking at options like this. So if someone in your neighborhood, or if you feel there is a place for that in your community, please reach out. We'd love to use this example and connect more people in the community. That way we can hear from them, and they're able to use that internet to connect to resources. Of course, a flag we talked about. I want to talk a bit about homelessness and those experiencing homelessness. We've gotten many questions about the plans. What are the city resources? There is individuals on the city that are planning to do a policy to help to revise that. One thing that I was shared with this week is that we are looking already at winter shelter planning. Since we are 4 months away from the end of the year, we're the last bit of heat waves that we see for the summer, and we're about to head into fall and into our winters. And with that comes again concerns of heat, of food, of shelter, and we want to make sure that we address that and improve these conditions for both the safety of our residents and for the safety of those that experience homelessness, to have that compassion again for them, and looking at those different tactics that we can use to get them the best resources, to get them off the street, to get them medical help and concerns. If you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer that, and get any ideas that you have, pass them up again. This is going to take a huge community effort in the end to be able to help those individuals that are on the street, or those that are near to experiencing homelessness, as we've seen COVID push a lot more community members to become jobless. In that, our street typology survey that I keep talking about has been extended because it's been so popular. I'll link that here also once I finish speaking. The survey, what it does, it recognizes the different roads and roadways in Salt Lake City. That way our departments can use that to prioritize different funding, and they can look at projects that they're doing and decide which streets are more effective or should be responded to sooner. So I'll link that there. Along with eviction resources, if you hear of anybody that is dealing with an eviction because of COVID, or need resources so that they can keep renting, I'll link those there. Refer them always to the 211 system. They have excellent resources, as well as I'll be linking a nonprofit that has different tenant resources for legal representation, which is something the city normally doesn't do, but we do have nonprofits that are helping with that. And we do have different budget proposals that came out from the city today to address different COVID needs again, and I'll link those budget amendments. The final thing I really wanted to go over is the different openings on boards. And let me see, these are vacancies that are upcoming, and the reason I want to bring it up is with our community, the Capitol Hill Neighborhood Council being so unique, because it intersects both our east side and west side. We want lots of different voices, ideas, diverse members to come. This is where a lot of these boards get to decide and recommend policy for our city. This is the Bicycle Advisory Board. boards of appeals and examiners, our Historic Landmark Commission, our Housing Advisory and Appeals Board, the Housing Trust Fund, Human Rights Commission, Parks, Lands, Urban Forestry and Trails, Planning Commission, Police Civilian Review Board, our Public Utilities Advisory Board, and the Redevelopment Advisory Board. Those are major boards. So if any of you have any interest, please email me. I'll make sure to send you that application. That way you can be a part of it. If you have the time, this is an excellent way to serve your community and bring those ideas that you may have for your community to fruition. And we have lots of vacancies. So I would love to see that flooded with individuals from the west side. I'd love to see Capitol Hill represented equitably. We do get a lot of applicants from the east side of our city. So if you know of anybody that you think should be on that board, we'd love to have you apply. And then of course, it's been a pleasure working and just to make this clear, the mayor's office is very aware of specifically issues with our transportation committee, which I'm so grateful for Brian Hutchinson, Dan Stevens, Dan Love, all those individuals that have been a part of this conversation. Councilmember Wharton has been a part of this. Please know this is something that our office is looking to move rapidly on, as rapidly as bureaucracy does, which may seem like a slug at best at times, but it is something that we talk about constantly every day. And again, as we evolve in this, you know, I think one of the beautiful things of our community, and I'm so happy that you all have accepted me into this community, is that we can look at these issues, like you said, Randy, is that there's just a few tweaking here and there, but it is a beautiful city. And it's something that I'm so proud to be a part of. So if you have any questions, I'll take any from here.
Thank you, Eva.
Hey.
Okay.
I have a question for Eva.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Eva, it's Laura Thomas. We were talking earlier today, I think. Nice to see you.
Hi.
I was wondering, why are there so many vacancies? I'm really interested.
So,
like, is it COVID?
Sorry. So there are term limits on these boards. And my understanding is some people can apply again. Some people choose not to. It's not necessarily COVID related, right? We want to cycle off people. We don't want to keep those individuals that are in this position of power and privilege in power and privilege. We want to be able to bring in new and diverse ideas. So this is just a part of the natural process, and I'm happy to share, but there are quite a bit of vacancies. I will say on each of these, there's at least 3 to 4 vacancies. And that's pretty normal. You want to be on one? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
I think so. We're all gonna nominate.
I would love to. I would love to. I was going to apply last year, and I just don't know. I missed the deadline, and I was really interested in especially the homeless committee, and because that's an issue near and dear to my heart. But I kind of lost touch of time.
No, for everybody that's interested, I did get a private chat here. I'm going to link in my information. I'll make sure to prioritize. Like I said, I really want to push this. We love our east side, but we want to make sure we have equitable representation. And that means we got to flood it with Capitol Hill. We got to flood it with Rose Park, Poplar Grove, all these individuals, all these neighborhoods. That's what we want. And, you know, I'm looking at people like Brian Hutchinson. I'm looking at people like Dan Stevens. You know, I'm looking at Anna Zimmel. I'm looking at you, Laura. I'm looking at you, John. I'm looking at all of you. Randy, you should do it too. That's the best way, right? It takes a community to build a better city. And that's what we're all trying to do. So, all right. Thank you, folks. I'll be on the call if you have anything else, but I'll link everything.
All right. Thank you. I think most people have muted their microphones. I'm about to introduce our main speakers. And for those of you who haven't, maybe you want to do that. Are there any elected officials that have joined us late? Don't think so. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, John.
Okay.
I just got a text from Katherine Kennedy. She said that she's at a meeting at West and she'll join us as soon as she can.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Amanda and Kathy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, and I got Amanda too.
All right, good. Let me introduce Amanda Christensen and Kathy Bray. Kathy Bray is the Chief Operating executive officer of Volunteers of America, Utah. Their focus is on homelessness, addiction, and mental illness. And Amanda is in charge of the homeless outreach team. We couldn't have two better people to tell us about the current state of affairs in Salt Lake regarding homelessness. Kathy was with us 2 years ago or 3 years ago at one of our council meetings?
Yeah, maybe 2, I think.
I think it was just 2. It was right when Salt Lake put out all that funding to change the landscape in the community. And so I think we're going to get a heck of an update today. Why don't you take it over, Kathy?
Sure. Thank you, John. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm happy to be back with the Capitol Hill neighborhood and to share an update with you and to try to make sure to save some time for any questions you might have that we can help you with. Our plan is that I'll try to give a more systemic overview, if you will, on the changes in the homeless system since I was with you a couple of years ago, and then pass some time to Amanda to talk more about unsheltered homelessness, and then we want to open it up for questions. I hope that works for everyone. And again, I'm Kathy Bray, and I've been with Volunteers of America now for over 20 years, and our organization is committed to doing the best we can to provide community-supported bridges to self-reliance. And that means that we rely on the community. We count on partnerships, both with government entities and citizens, to try to come up with the best solutions possible. So briefly, I could say that we have changed the system in the Salt Lake County area significantly in the last couple of years, where it used to be the main one large shelter on Rio Grande Street. And through councils and committees and a lot of discussion, we decided as a community to have 3 new resource centers available for smaller numbers of people each, and to make them more resource rich. So we now have 3 resource centers that, instead of the larger facility downtown. Volunteers of America operates the Women's Resource Center. It's called the Geraldine by short. And we have 200 women in there on any given night. Lately, we've been at 99% occupancy capacity. So we are running full. We've been open the longest. Ours was the first facility to open, and that was in August of last year. So we are about 1 year, actually. And the other 2 resource centers opened after us. That's Gail Miller Center, which is for 160 men, 40 women, and then the Men's Resource Center in South Salt Lake, which is for 300 men. So we have the 3 new ones up and running. We also have 2 others that were actually existing prior. So the Midvale Family Shelter is run by the Road Home, as is the Men's Center I mentioned, the 301 in South Salt Lake. We also at Volunteers of America run the Youth Resource Center, which existed prior, and that one is 9th South and 4th West. So, and then the Gail Miller Center is currently being run by Shelter the Homeless, and Shelter the Homeless is the owner of the 3 new resource centers. Anyway, that's a lot of detail. It's a lot of change. After we moved everybody out of the Rio Grande shelter and closed it down, it was pretty quickly afterwards that they demolished the building, and that land is currently owned by the state of Utah and up for sale. So we'll see what happens there. We have created these resource centers that act very differently than the old shelter system, and we did this on purpose, where there are kitchens and meals available for everyone on site in each facility, so they don't need to leave the building during the day if they don't have an appointment or if they're not going to work and so forth. It's okay now for people to stay there and actually have their needs met in terms of food. And we also have layered in more case management staff that are helping people to focus on moving out into community housing. So that is also very good. We're getting to know the people by name and what their story is and so forth. At the Geraldine, we've already served over 1,000 women. So this is a lot of people there's a lot of turnover. People kind of come in and out of the system more than I was kind of expecting. We are learning a lot, and we're making some changes to continue to make it better. We have a centralized intake system. So if you know anyone who's trying to get an emergency shelter bed, there's one number in Salt Lake County that they can call, and that's run by the Utah Community Action, and it's 990-9999. So you put the 801 on the front of it, and then it's 990-9999, and they can help. They help figure out where the shelter beds. We all report into them. Here's how many shelter beds we have open, and they can see it on their computer screen and figure out how best to get someone into an emergency shelter bed. Capacity, we are having some issues with capacity where, like the Geraldine, can be full. So we have those other 40 beds. Anyway, we're trying to find spots for people everywhere we can. We started the Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness. And this is the new kind of oversight body where all of the analysis about what we should do next happens. So what don't we have enough of? Where are the gaps? What funding should we be advocating for? What kind of policy issues and so forth? We're, again, in our first year of this, so it's a pretty new system, but anybody can join and be a member of the Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness. The website is End Homelessness Utah, and then you can go to Salt Lake Valley. So End Homelessness Utah, it's kind of I wish I had the exact link, sorry. I should have talked to Eva. I bet she's probably got it already memorized, but I'm glad to hear so much around homelessness in terms of your community caring and people keeping you up to speed on what's going on, including Councilmember Wharton, of course, so thank you. A couple other pieces I wanted to share before I ask Amanda to talk more about street outreach. COVID. The COVID coronavirus epidemic has just made things very difficult for all of us, including people who are homeless, and how we can operate these essential services. So as all of that has been happening, we've done everything, and we've been working very closely with Salt Lake County Unified Command. It's kind of the central system. Looking out for homeless individuals as a vulnerable population. And so they helped us get protective equipment for our staff, for our clients. We've had increased costs, and, there's a lot of funding related issues, but increased cleaning. We've got plexiglass up now. We're doing everything we can to prevent the spread. And I will say in the Geraldine, we've had a few women who have come in and ended up positive as we test them, but there's been no spread within our facility of the coronavirus, and we're really proud of that, and only could have done that with that support and help of a lot of community partners, including like 4th Street Clinic, the health department, the Road Home, and Shelter the Homeless, Catholic Community Services, the list goes on and on, but we're gonna try to keep that going. So what we're doing is doing tests on a weekly basis to try to catch any viruses early. We're screening for symptoms on a daily basis. It's quite an undertaking. And so, and in the same time, we're still trying to move as many people into housing as we possibly can. And that is limited because there's limited housing available. And we're very concerned about potential evictions because of people losing their jobs related to the coronavirus or anything. But back to the, it's so much is surrounding the coronavirus, and it has changed also what we're doing on the streets in terms of street outreach. So Amanda, I think it'd be great for you to fill in this community on what's changing and what's going on.
Thanks, Kathy. Hi, everybody. So just to kind of piggyback off what Kathy was talking about as far as kind of COVID-19 and how we're responding. So my team, the homeless outreach team specifically, was asked by the kind of COVID-19 incident command team through Salt Lake County to play kind of an integral role in addressing COVID-19 specifically in the unsheltered population. And so we worked closely with them to develop kind of a plan. And part of that was coming up with a co-response model with Salt Lake County, the Salt Lake County Health Department, specifically incorporating nursing staff onto our team so that we could go out into the community, engage with those who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness and assess for symptoms, as well as really educate around COVID-19 and best practices, all the things that we all know about, kind of hygiene and maintaining distancing and providing masks, things like that. So pretty much since March, my team has been going out and with a health department nurse and engaging with individuals. With that, we've been able to set up systems for individuals to get tested. We've also worked closely with the Medical Reserve Corps and 4th Street Clinic and actually brought mobile testing events to individuals who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. So we've done some events in the community, bringing a medical van and medical team to where there may be encampments or people tend to hang around, and we're actually able to do testing on site there, which proved to be fairly successful. So we've really been looking at mitigating risk with COVID-19 spread, protecting the population by educating and assessing those who we're encountering.
Can I ask you the positivity rate in relationship? Like, I know she said that the women's, that they were finding just a few women and it wasn't spreading. How is it in your situation when you're going out and y'all are assessing in those camps at their makeshift camps? What is the positivity rate amongst those? Is it about the same, or isn't it?
I think I can't give a specific number, but it's been fairly low.
Okay.
Overall, the homeless community has really had fairly low numbers when it comes to contracting COVID-19. And I can't say specifically, but anecdotally, part of that is because they tend to isolate or stay to themselves most of the time. So they're not in areas where there would be maybe a lot of people, because many of the public spaces where people would tend to hang out, like public libraries, community centers, senior centers, where the population that we work with would tend to go, have all been closed. And so really they're kind of staying to themselves and in their own areas, which has really limited their exposure to others in the virus.
See, and I'm seeing people that don't want to help because they think, oh, we know they're homelessness. And I think it's across the board. I think that there's a, discrimination when, you deal with stuff like that anyway sometimes. But for me, I wanted to know if the risk is any different from the people that you see in the grocery store. And I don't see that. In personal experience, I haven't seen that, and I try to help the homelessness in our area, bringing water and dog food and, food ornaments or donating here and there. But I haven't seen a difference in positivity in the homeless versus the general public that I'm seeing in the grocery store. So I want to know if I'm feeling as comfortable as that, should other people be feeling the same way, that they shouldn't be as cautious of them?
Yeah, I think that you're correct in that it wouldn't be any more increased risk than it would be to kind of anyone else who you're engaging with.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
And next, I just want to chat a little bit about kind of what my team does in general. So like Kathy said, we're the homeless outreach team. Our goal really is to work with those who are currently unsheltered. So we go out into the community, including your guys' neighborhood, and engage with those who, are in need of assistance, who are struggling with homelessness. So part of that is we do help with some basic needs things, especially right now where the temps are so high. Our focus really is on hydration and water because of the health risks kind of associated with that. But our main goal is really to build rapport and connect with folks so that we can encourage them to utilize some of the critical community resources that we that we have and that these folks could benefit from. So We have case management on the team that helps specifically look at housing. We also can help connect people with any services, including behavioral health, medical services, housing services, really with the goal to ultimately help these individuals exit homelessness into some stable options that ultimately will improve their quality of life. So that's what my team specifically does. We really are connected and work closely with a lot of community partners so that we can essentially find and connect people with the services that they're in need of. And yeah, that's pretty much what we do on the homeless outreach team. We are in your area fairly regularly. And so I think, Kathy, if you don't have anything, do you want to open it up to questions?
Amanda, I have a question.
Okay.
You just, excuse me, did I interrupt you?
No, I was just going to
Kathy
say
or Amanda?
we are ready. We'll give it our best shot.
Amanda, what are you seeing in the Marmalade area? Do you reach as far as the foothills behind the Marmalade when you contact people?
Yeah, so we are on Victory Road fairly regularly. I would probably say, and just like the last week and a half, I think that I've had staff in that area at least 3 times. We are county based, so my team really goes county wide. But when we see, individual encampment, or we're trying to connect with specific people, we'll obviously revisit areas fairly frequently. And so we have gone to Victory Road area, and
Victory Road seems to be trending in a higher population trend. Are you seeing that? I know it waxes and wanes.
Yeah, I am, and I am seeing most specifically is that we've really had folks in this area for years, but more recently we have seen an increase of individuals kind of camping in the area, and we've seen an increase in vehicles, which wasn't always the case. And so that's why we've kind of been paying extra close attention to the area and trying to engage folks in the area more frequently as of recently.
I have a question, Amanda. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
What's the people that you're interacting with on the street, unsheltered homelessness? I worked at the homeless shelter when it was the women's shelter, even before it was on Rio Grande. And I know I go way
we
back.
might know each other.
You look so familiar to me. Anyway, we'll chat. But that was a very interesting experience. And but one thing that I learned that really was interesting is that people have different attitudes towards not only, towards getting help. And you're actually going out towards them. So I'm curious what their response and attitude is towards you when you go there. Like, is there a percentage of people that like to see you, or others that you anger just by being there and reaching out? And then also I'm curious what their response is towards COVID. Like, are most of them taking it seriously or not? What are the attitudes about those things?
Okay. Yeah, I would say the majority of the individuals that we interact with, they know who we are. They know Volunteers of America, and they are more frequently than not, it's a positive reaction to us being in the area. And they're receptive to engagement, majority of individuals. Of course, there's going to be people here or there who, maybe don't want to engage, and that's okay too. And part of what we do is kind of continue to outreach to individuals, because at any point in time, they may change their mind and decide to engage with us. So we want to leave that door open for them. As far as reaction to COVID-19, people have been fairly receptive. And part of that is it's been really helpful having health department nurses on the team, because when it's a medical provider, you tend to listen a little bit closer and pay a little bit more attention, right? So they've really wanted to know kind of what they can do. We've had a lot of people ask for masks. and have been fairly receptive to advice on kind of keeping their distance from other individuals, spacing out camps even, to try to prevent the transmission, as well as, you know, asking about, you know, for bottled water for hand washing or things like that. So overall, I think people, they want to know, especially at the beginning, just like the rest of us, where everybody was just trying to get as much information as they could. Our clients were just, you know, like the rest of us, interested in what's happening, and what they can do to protect themselves and others.
So are they wearing, do they wear masks when you give them to them?
Yeah, we have a good portion of clients. I can't say that they wear them all the time, but we have a good portion of clients who we interact with that do wear masks and that are asking for masks. And I have to say, when I've driven around town, you know, I've definitely noticed those in the homeless population actively wearing masks. And I think they also recognize that, like we do, in order to access certain services and certain spaces, you have to be masked. And so they're very aware of that. Majority of people are aware of that, so.
Can I ask another question? This one's going to be very un-PC, so just a warning.
Okay.
But when you mentioned that, you know, the fact that you're with health providers and you're there and that they're very open and yeah, encouraged by that, you reminded me, I've been watching a lot of Latin American news lately, and I was shocked to learn that in Mexico, there's a lot of people that actually blame hospitals and doctors and medical people for COVID to the point where they're being attacked in the street, and hospitals are being attacked. So I'm glad that the fact that you're with a medical you know, nurses is helpful, but that raised the question to me too. What's the demographics like? Usually, I think in our neighborhood, most of them are white. Are there also Black and Hispanic? What's the population number? I told you that was going to be on PC.
Yeah, I can't give you a specific statistics on, you know, ethnicity breakdowns. But we really work with and encounter like every ethnicity that I can think of, and engage with them, you know, fairly regularly. So it's not, we don't just have one specific identity that we're encountering.
I have 100 questions, but somebody else ask a question.
Okay.
I'll
I
ask
have a
another one.
question.
Go ahead.
Oh,
No.
okay, you go.
First. Already asked one a minute ago. You go first.
I was wondering, Amanda, can you tell me what kind of resources are available for the shelter-resistant populations, for bathrooms and showers and fresh water? Where can they access this stuff?
Yeah, so bathrooms, there's a couple public bathrooms that have been open and are available to individuals. This downtown Salt Lake City Library currently has a bathroom open. We also have Taylorsville Park, so I'm talking countywide, has opened restrooms. And I'm just trying to think of all the other parks that are open. I think Liberty Park has multiple restrooms open specifically. And then we also have shower and restroom resources that have been opened. The closest really to probably you all is the Fairmont Aquatic Center. So that aquatic center was actually open prior to, I don't know if the pool's open right now, I don't think it is, but prior to just for basically shower resources for individuals in need. They were also providing underwear and hygiene kits for individuals there and bottled water. Additionally,
Where is that, Amanda? Where is that exactly?
It's at Fairmont Park, which is in Sugar House. Let me look it up really quick.
Oh, I know where that is. Okay. Is the homeless population on the street increasing or decreasing?
You want me to take that one, Amanda?
Yes.
Yeah, take that one, please.
I'd be interested in your take on it too, just based on what you see. But I'll say that point in time numbers, we did the annual survey in January where we count people as best as we can. both in the shelter systems and also unsheltered. And based on that survey across the state of Utah, the unsheltered population increased 12%. Now, that meant from 400 people who were counted that night to 700 statewide. I'm sure some of that was in Salt Lake County. We also we're not really sure if it's a 12% increase in people or if we had more volunteers working with us this past point in time count. So we actually found more people because we had more people looking. It's probably a mix. And then, so that's kind of the data that we've been looking at. I do want to mention we are also, as the Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness, looking at racial data just to see who are we really serving compared to the overall community population and so forth. But back to the question, Amanda, what do you think? Does it look like street unsheltered is increasing?
I would say that it does present that way. There is some complications with that. Part of that is that, like I said, typically individuals who are unsheltered, especially when weather gets either really hot or really cold, would find refuge inside some of our community-based centers, like our libraries, our senior centers and stuff like that. And right now, because all of these community-based centers are closed, the appearance to us is like there is more people outside. I don't know statistically if that means the number has increased or if it just feels and seems like it's increased because we're seeing more people out rather than in some of these places where they would typically, hang out during the day, seek, air conditioning and things like that, and restrooms and drinking fountains and all of those things. But we have had an increase of individuals who are new to us, which does speak to the fact that we are engaging with individuals who we have not engaged with and who are newly homeless. And some of those are reporting that it is homelessness due to job loss related to COVID-19. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting in a couple months to see the numbers and really be able to suss that out. But right now it's still all fairly new.
I have never personally, I'm from Louisiana, and I've never seen a homeless population like this. Even in traveling in other states, I've never seen a homeless population. And we got here, like I said, just before COVID. So even in the winter time, people sleeping on the streets in the snow and, sheltering in these abandoned buildings. I've never seen anything like this. And you would think, New Orleans or Baton Rouge, we've got some rough areas there. I don't understand this. And I guess this leads into kind of my question of when you're offering these, like, how many of them turn you down, and how many of them also, when you go at your medical teams for the mentally, like, I have 2 kids with autism, they're high functioning, I'm very blessed, but what do you do for those individuals that can't seek the resources or don't understand how to get those resources? How do you, as when you're bringing your healthcare providers, sit back and say, well, we need to make this decision for them, as to whether they can you make that decision for them? Like, I guess I'm wondering how many people that of the neurotypical you offer say yes or no to it, and how many are incapable of making that decision themselves?
That's kind of hard to kind of put a number on. We do run into people, with various issues, including mental health issues. And really what we do is try to encourage and do warm handoffs. So that may look like us partnering with Valley Behavioral Health and actually having them come and do outreach with us to engage the individual. Right. So it's not a process of us saying, you go here, and them not really having the ability to do that. It's more of us bringing the provider to them and connecting them with that resource. So we do a lot of warm handoffs. And then obviously if it's something that's, fairly critical or, that we need to take further action on, we may, call in additional resources, whether that's, the Uni Mobile Crisis Team or, staff it and see what next steps or what other community providers we can get involved, whether that's aging services or, if it's an ability and an issue of, kind of capacity and taking care of themselves, those type of things. So We have to get creative, and we have to really use our community partners when it comes to resolving some of those difficult situations. And we do have a good amount of individuals who do take and engage in services. And then, you know, of course, we have individuals who, for many different reasons, may feel more comfortable or safer, you know, not accessing traditional services, which is why street outreach and our partnerships are so important, so that we can get those people connected to services, you know, through kind of us coming to them. So, yeah.
Sorry, my
I have a
son
follow-up
just,
question.
one of my little ones was coming in.
No. Can I ask Amanda, can I ask you a question to follow up?
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay, you said that you partner with Valley Behavioral Health sometimes. Is it possible for me as a resident to call you or to call Valley if there's a person who's experiencing homelessness who's had some kind of break, some kind of issue, trauma, or maybe they're down on the meds? I saw somebody at the Family Dollar 2 weeks ago. They were screaming their heads off, screaming, and I ran over there. I was barefoot, and I ran over there from my neighborhood. And this guy, he was a person of color, just screaming his head off, and you could tell he just like had a bad trip, or he was off his meds or something, and he had a lot of stuff with him, like he was experiencing homelessness. And I was afraid to call the police because I thought they might kill him, and so I walked away from that guy. And because I don't want to be the person calling the police in and them attacking this guy who's just having a bad day. Who do I call? Who's someone else that I can call?
I think one resource would be potentially the Uni Crisis Line. The hard part is that, you know, we do have kind of limited staff, and we may not be able to get there immediately, especially if it's like a safety risk for the individual. And a lot of times we would potentially refer you to PD, but I think that the Uni Crisis Line might be one, and I can put that number up. And then I don't know if you're aware, but Salt Lake City PD does have a social work, a team that partners with social workers. They have social workers on kind of their force, and it's called the Community Connection Center. And they, you know, I can put their number up there. They are trained, and they are social workers that respond, they co-respond with PD, which can be very helpful in instances like that. And I can definitely put that number up there as well, Laura.
Amanda, there was one other number you mentioned earlier. There's another resource, just if you want to, the Salt Lake City has staff who are responding to just information about where homeless individuals are or tend to be camping, a more general, less of a crisis type of a call, I would say. But can you put that up there too and explain it better than I did?
Sorry, what were you saying, Kathy? Sorry, I was gathering phone number.
The Salt Lake City number where people can call if they have concern about community camping and so forth.
Oh yeah, so that's actually specifically the Salt Lake City mobile app. So that's a phone app that you're going to download. I don't know if that's been brought up to you all before, or if you already have it, but if you download the Salt Lake City mobile app, it's not necessarily a response that's going to be immediate, but if you are seeing issues with homelessness or any other issues, really, you can report graffiti and all kinds of, you know, trash dumping or things like that in there too. But there is an option to specify homelessness as the issue, and if you can kind of provide the address and the information on it. And then what that will do is we work really closely with Salt Lake City. We actually have a partnership with Salt Lake City on our outreach team, and we coordinate with them, and we would potentially respond. And if it's, say, a growing encampment, or there's even, you know, some health concerns like syringes or bio waste or anything like that, it will alert Salt Lake City, and then they can, you know, do what they need to do in order to respond to that.
Amanda, Kathy, I've got a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Just real quickly, Amanda, Kathy, either one of you, or maybe in that order. In the context of the question that comes up now, popular question, Chris has already broached the question. With the reform in the police department being at least the topic of conversation, are you guys interfacing with the police department and law enforcement on what more you need from them?
Want to go first, Amanda?
Yeah, so I mean, the reality is that we actually work with Salt Lake PD fairly frequently. And we have a good working relationship with Salt Lake PD. We specifically, actually, I partner really regularly with the Community Connection Center. That's kind of social work joint response program, because we actually share a lot of clients, and they have and can do homeless outreach as well. So we've co-responded and done some efforts together.
Do you see the budget increasing or being augmented in your direction, or increased in your direction in favor of mental illness and homelessness? Or, I mean, I'm a business owner. I get probably stolen from weekly in the car industry on Beck Street. And I believe in law enforcement. You know, that might not be a popular idea with a lot of people right now, but I believe in law enforcement. I'm also come from a family where my mother was a registered nurse and helped start Special Olympics in Atlanta. I've been around special needs individuals of all types. And if there was any kind of reform, I think that might be in order in our community would be a broader reach into the special needs community.
I'm gonna applaud that.
I mean, if that's a voice, we could, hey, Randy, must be distant cousin. Anyway,
sorry.
if there's anything we could be saying as a community organization here, neighborhood council and part of the board, I think I can speak to the board very quickly. We want law enforcement. We want people to feel comfortable going to law enforcement. I mean, I'll be quiet. That's.
Well, kids like mine, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, children like mine grow up and they're cute when they're little. Yeah. But when you have those issues, they need the resources. You lose that little sunshine, sweetness, and they can take a path, and they need someone to help them on that path. And it doesn't. I mean, with me, it doesn't stop. I'm a parent, but when I take my last breath, I want to know that someone's there to take care of them and help them. That the resources are there. So I completely agree with what you're saying.
You know what you're making me think of is Medicaid expansion and the importance that has played in trying to help many people get preventative care as well as addiction care, mental health care. And I think we're starting to see, because we've been enrolling people for over a year, but I think we're going to see better and more mental health and behavioral health interventions. We're already expanding some high intensity. Actually, John is on our high intensity mental health intervention team, and we just started a second one. My point really is that now these individuals have a way, they have a resource that they can utilize, and it's a payment system so that they can get more of what they need, and then we can build programs around it.
But for me, a capable individual, even to go and do it for my father or my children, my children don't have Medicaid, but to go and apply for those services, you have to have the intelligence, or you have to have someone capable of helping you do that. And I don't know that these individuals are capable of even asking for that help. And that's why they may have paid into Medicaid at some point in time in their life, but they don't know how to access it now. And I'm glad that you're there, because that's the thing, is like, y'all are actively going out and helping them do that as well as, okay, wonderful. That's what my next question, or my last question, was going to be. Are y'all helping them with social services aspects, like applying for those things?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Brian, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. So I feel blessed to have these three saints at the meeting, and including John, Amanda, and of course, St. Kathy. But I have to say, you alluded to and possible, you didn't use the word flood, but I'm expecting a flood due to the COVID-19 related job losses and people being turned out on the streets. Thinking about the city of Paradise, California, recognizing that they are actually using RVs as in a transitional housing. But they're not transitioning, well, they are transitioning from homelessness and getting back to their own house. We talked about this, or I brought this up a half a year ago. Transitional housing is really key. And I'm wondering if there's a formal component or plan to allow RVs at all the districts in the city. It's all 7 districts in a sort of KOA style hookups and bathroom arrangement. Would that be cheaper than waiting until not just cheaper? Would that be better for the people than waiting until an absolute disaster is created? Is there anything being planned on those lines?
Yeah, Brian, thank you for that. I think
thank you.
That has been one of the options that we've talked about a little bit as we research options for emergency shelter this winter, and even beyond just winter. You know, how are we going to make sure we're moving as, you know, helping people when they're in emergency and moving them into housing? So it's kind of on the front end, on the tail end. We've talked about that in sort of a regulated parking area, if you will. And at this point, that is not an initiative that is being pursued by Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness. It's our opinion that it is better, if possible, to pursue a facility where people can be inside, where there are restrooms available for people and things like that. And so we're going to go in that direction probably first, based on what we've heard from other places that have operated the parking type RV. It's almost as expensive, and we, you know, there's pros and cons to all of it, but nothing's off the table. It's still an option that's on the sheet. We're just pursuing one over the other right now. And the other thing I would say is we're really working hard to figure out who ultimately has the responsibility for the level of homelessness in our state. So there's the Kem Gardner Institute at the University of Utah is currently compiling a study where we're trying to figure out, like, who's got the final say in what the solution is going to be, and how can we continue to evolve as a state system to do our very best so that people are moving, so that people have, first of all, housing options that are affordable for them. And when they fall out of housing for different reasons, that there are shelter accommodations for people short term or as long as they need it to stabilize and move out. So, but thank you. We're brainstorming, and that was included.
Thank you, Kathy. I think we have time for maybe one more question. We still need to hear from Brian about transportation. And Katherine, are you out there? Katherine Kennedy?
I am, and I'm happy to go if you want me to, or to give a report if you want me to, or stay after the meeting.
Thank you. Does anyone have a real pressing question right now? Okay, Katherine, thank you. Amanda and Kathy, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having us, and what a great community you guys have. So thank you for participating.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. We'll see you in another couple of years.
Yeah, that's right.
Hopefully at the Marmalade Library.
That would be good. I'd love to be there with you.
All right. Katherine, go ahead, and then we'll hear from Brian about transportation.
Wonderful. So things have been very exciting this summer for the Salt Lake City School District. We are starting remotely, which has been very controversial, but we think it's the right decision. And we know that it will be difficult for some parents. We understand that. And we think that it's the safest way to start. And we do understand, like I said, that it will be difficult for parents. We feel like it will also help reduce the spread of COVID in our city. And so we want to acknowledge that we understand that it will be hard for working parents, and we'll try to do our best to help with that and work with parents as much as we can. Our plan is to evaluate at quarterly and to be remote probably until November 1st, and evaluate again to see if numbers in the Salt Lake City School District area have been below 5% positivity during that time period. So if we have been, then we will move to a hybrid model, and those models are all online if anyone wants to take a look at those. Besides that, we are really pleased with our new superintendent. I think that the community is really pleased with the new superintendent and how well he is performing. Teachers and SLEA are really happy. We've given them a 4.5% raise, which I think got a little bit overshadowed in the plans for the start of the new school year. And besides that, we're just ready to go. We have had very few teachers retire, unlike, I don't know if you've seen recent news reports, unlike the other school districts close by. Granite, I think, had about 90 teachers retire or resign in the last little while. We've had almost, I think, none or almost none. So we're really pleased. Our teachers are really pleased with how we're proceeding, and we are continuing to put in safety measures for when we do go back to school. And our goal, of course, is to get kids back into the classroom as quickly as possible. We do understand that being remote does have an emotional toll on our students. We're trying to put in counseling and other social workers, so teachers and students have access to those services, and teachers can refer students to those services, and students can access those, and parents can access those as well. Our teachers have done a lot of training, so they will be able to provide really great teaching, we hope, for our students in a remote model. Any questions?
That makes it easy.
That does. No one? Colin, is that a question?
I do have a question. I emailed you earlier in the week.
You did. Thank you.
It does kind of tie into homelessness. I'm wondering, if that homeless camp is blocking the entrance to the West High athletic fields, who the best contact is. I don't want to be bugging the police, as we mentioned earlier,
right.
That they're busy. But it also might not be something that the school staff is equipped to deal with.
Right. So so you saw the email I sent to Paul, and you haven't seen any movement on that at all? I haven't driven by since I emailed him.
No,
is that right?
It's pretty much becoming an encampment. And then, what will happen is they'll go to the baseball fields, and there's a lot of drug use over there. It's kind of scary for a student athlete to be, running around and
right.
jumping up and getting poked with a needle or something.
Right, absolutely. So I think that maybe we do need to ask I'll follow up with Paul again. And I think his feeling is that he doesn't have as much authority if it's not directly on school grounds. But I think if it is affecting our students, then we need to make sure that we're doing something, and maybe I'll check in with Chris and see if we can come to something among the two of us. So I'll check in with Chris right after the meeting, and he's right there with me. So thank you for listening and being right there, Chris. So with the two of us, I think we can come to figure out something. So Colin's been right on that. So great community awareness, and he emailed me along with a bunch of pictures, and so we really appreciate him for being there and helping our students. It's really great.
Well, this West High alum appreciates it, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Brian.
Hi, thank you. We've been working on a transportation plan, and I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at the concept board for the avenues in Capitol Hill, but the topic and also the streets and intersection typology plan for Salt Lake transportation. They actually look at the overview, and they're looking about speed reductions and modifications. The issue on 300 North between 3rd West and 4th West, when the kids pile out of school and spill onto the street has come up. And would you support a reduced speed on that section? This is something, if you do, also in the area in Washington Elementary and also the Marmalade Library. If those are issues that you would support, I urge you to reach out to Salt Lake Transportation, but also you can jump on Concept Board, or it's a little roundabout way to work on streets and intersection typology, but is this something you could support?
Sure. So tell me which street it is again.
So 3rd North is the winding street between 3rd West and 4th West. That street's currently at 25, which means 30 or 35, right?
So you're hoping to push it down to 20?
No, 15, because because it's such a short and dangerous winding, meaning blind turns, and also crosswalk, all that business. And this is something that.
And it's that narrow street. It's a very narrow street, right?
Right. And the interim principal, I had a good talk with her. She was great. Supports that idea.
Stacy Briggs.
Yeah, awesome. And so does over on Washington Elementary, but also the mayor supports reduced speed around, schools.
Yes, I think that sounds like a great idea. I'm happy to write a letter supporting that, that reduced speed. And that's you're talking about the really steep section. I'd have to go drive that.
Not steep, but so we're talking about West High.
Right. Okay, so you're talking about
right
there. Okay.
The winding street. So if you're on 3rd West and you're heading west.
Okay.
You see a crosswalk.
Right there. Okay, so between. Okay.
Kids on their phones crossing the crosswalk. Yeah.
Let's make all of 3rd. Maybe we need to make all of 3rd North 15 miles an hour all the way down from the top.
Oh, for sure. Okay. So you were talking about the steeper part, which is another area that Salt Lake Transportation actually agrees should be greatly reduced speed. So
I think that from the top of 3rd North, that's crazy that if it should be 15 miles an hour all the way down 3rd North. Okay.
Yeah. Who's in
in
such a hurry? Thank you.
Thank you. Jen Daily-Provost, our state representative, who joined us late. She was at a meeting at Capitol Hill. Let's give her some airtime here.
Hi, everybody. I will be very, very brief because I know we're running short on time, and I know Brian's got a lot of really great things to share. I was in a meeting this evening for 2.5 hours with Legislative Counsel and our fiscal analyst talking about the bills. Maggie's back, everybody. Hang on 1 second. Maggie just went for a scooter ride. There she is. So we were talking about bills that are coming up in the special session, which is tomorrow, and we are scheduled for a full 12 hours tomorrow. There are a lot of bills, some of them pretty mundane, and some important things that need to be fixed with regard to just, some things that have popped up related to COVID, especially there's one specifically, for example, that, sorry about the noise, that allows for some flexibility on updating wills, considering the fact that sometimes people who are very, very ill with COVID can't necessarily get things notarized and whatnot. And so there's some important things that need to be done. Some other issues, like, for example, Representative Moss has a bill to relax requirements for emergency drills in schools. It still requires for kids to have verbal learning, but making everybody get up and move in packs is actually not wise during this pandemic. And so, like I said, we're doing some critical, important things in response to COVID. Some other bills that I'm really upset about and I'm working on fighting against include this uniform, I'm sorry. I can't find the name of it. It's a bill, it's being run by the Senate, that basically allows regulatory certainty amendments, allows the oil and gas industry, who have been fined for some pretty significant transgressions in their operations in the last couple of years. This all came out in an audit last year. It allows them to basically postpone responding to the audit reports and paying any fines until after COVID. Simultaneously, in the budget bill, the legislative leadership wants to give the oil and gas industry another $5 million to help them meet their shortfalls in their funds. And so I'm pretty upset that we're dedicating so much time and energy to helping the gas and oil industry. So I think that letting them off the hook on those regulatory issues is a mistake, and so I'll be fighting against that. There is a bill that changes state code to allow, basically lowers the bar significantly to allow the governor's choice for a new executive director for the Department of Health that I disagree or public health. And the original bill would have allowed even the deputy director to have a requirement for any kind of medical or public health background, but it looks like there will be an amendment to at least put some of that back in for the deputy director. There will be some significant changes coming at the Department of Health that I don't know that I can stop, that I have a lot of heartburn about. Just by matter of, as a point of information, I am working on my PhD in public health, and so this is an area that I consider to myself to be, as far as the legislature is concerned, to have some expertise, and have been frustrated by what I view as a relative lack of deference to public health in public health decisions related to COVID. And so we'll continue to have those. We will be allocating $135 million of our remaining federal CARES Act money. The law is really specific about how that money can be spent, and it has to be spent by December 31st. So that also limits some of what we can do. There have been a lot of questions about whether or not that CARES money can be used to keep the public or the community health clinics open that are slated for closure. Unfortunately, the Ogden and Provo clinics are already closed and shuttered, but we will be restoring some funding in the budget tomorrow to keep the Salt Lake Clinic open until April, which fortunately gives us enough time to get through the 2021 session to hopefully restore that funding to keep that Salt Lake City Community Health Clinic open indefinitely. So those are the top things on my list right now. And next month I will have a lot more to say about how tomorrow's special session actually plays out.
Thank you, Jen Daly. We'll see you next month on the 16th.
Questions offline, because I want to hand it over to Brian. If you want to either contact me or put something in the chat, I'll take those there. Thanks, guys.
Righto. Let's move on to Brian. Brian, are you there? Brian,
Yes,
you're on.
yes, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
thanks. Hey, were you able to get that PowerPoint? Did you see that in the email?
No, I was not.
So can I share?
You can share.
Okay, so host disabled attendee screen sharing. Maybe, can you enable it?
I disabled it?
Well, I think that's a default setting. So I think you have to manually go in and share it.
You know, it'd probably take me so long to do that. You better just
Okay.
create a visual image for us out of your mind.
Okay, imagine yourself immersed in a sea of trucks. Okay, let's go through this quickly. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll look at the PowerPoint and I'll describe it to you. Okay, so what we have in the past and on the website is a description of our projects that we've been working on. And we've been making some progress of late, as Chris will attest to. And we also, we've added some partners. We have right now about 18 partners. We added Staker Parson today, and they really, we had a really good talk with them today. We're gonna have a follow-up talk on Friday. And they're quite open to the engineering suggestions that were brought up. So we're hopeful that we're going to get somewhere with the heavy truck, the industrial traffic that's inundating 3rd West and 6th North. So moving back a bit, we had a transportation committee meeting just a little while ago, and we had UDOT was present. We had Salt Lake Mayor's office was representative. We had the council and Salt Lake Transportation, Salt Lake PD. And it was actually a really good session. It was an introduction, but now we're going to go back into breakout groups, and we'll have groups like Ken Krause, who's kind of heading the East Capitol Boulevard exhibitionist driving noisy, motorcycle issue. We're working with Sydney Fonsbeck, who's a name from the past, who was a prominent council member during the Ted Wilson days, and she's sharp. And I think don't get mad at me, but I think she's about 80, and she and just really on top of it, and has some great ideas. And so we're bringing her into the fold. But we're actually talking with Salt Lake PD, and they, after our last meeting where they were concerned about ability to respond, they actually sent some people out on 3rd West 6th North. It happened to be not during the hours that were prescribed, but they stopped 15 people. There were a couple engine brake violations, that sort of thing. Just get a feel of it. We're going to go back and create a strategic plan with incorporating UHP, who was very receptive, and there's a strong relationship between those two departments. But Anthony Karuba, administrative sergeant up at the Capitol building, had some ideas, and we think we can start to develop strategies for the exhibitionist driving, and which actually is hitting the entire country. And also I know from my experience, places like Italy and other places where motorcycles rule. So there's positive movement there. I guess.
Brian, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What did Staker Parsons agree to do?
So they agreed to looking at their what they shared is they have tracking. They track every single truck, their engine performance, their speeds, etc., and their locations and their delivery routes. And what they're willing to do is open all that up and look at refining their goals with their drivers, looking at shorter routes, but also looking at slower driving. And we're going to follow up on that. But we're looking at the apparent typical pattern is 6 to 7 cycles per day per truck driver, and they're looking at in the course of an entire day. We looked at the lapse time between delivery points and determined that, just off the cuff right today, realized that there's some efficiencies on the order of like a half a minute expenditure that would not even be would not affect the bottom line at all. So they're actually willing to look at things like that.
Great.
Mostly safety related, noise related, pollution related. Those are all associated with speed, as we know. But they also they're willing to work on engineering suggestions, with the other entities, with the transportation entities, and yeah. So like open it all up. Really good meeting today. So that's a positive thing.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not going to cut you off, but it is 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Have you got another couple of major points you want to make?
I do.
Okay.
Why don't we? It is late, so we're going to put these graphs up that show speed's relationship to safety, noise, and air quality. But so those are going to go up, and also under air quality, looking at the emissions from various vehicles under different speeds, and these are the things that are going to be guiding some of our investigations. But I'd have to say that Chris has helped us a lot with setting up meetings and bringing people to the table. Where we expect quite a significant this next meeting, but prior to that, we're going to see if we can get some things done. I have to say before I move on too quickly, Salt Lake City Transportation is a great partner. And under the education, engineering, and enforcement guideline, we're working heavily on the education side right now. And that's educating the drivers, the residents, but also educating the city on what the residents need. And so we're going to reach out to the neighborhood again. We have a couple times in the last month to have more input if they have site-specific ideas that they'd like to share. But I should just say that under the education component, we were given a bunch of yard signs. We put those out, which relate to speed and air quality. They're just to start get people's attention. And other programs are coming to fruition with the Salt Lake City Transportation. Under engineering, we're actually working on projects that the neighborhood can roll up their sleeves and help with, like street painting intersections, or maybe we're do partial closures at intersections to slow traffic or to reroute traffic on the left turns into the neighborhood sort of idea. So we have, there's a lot of stuff. I realize we're a little late now. So I'm going to give this to Anna and we'll put this up probably tomorrow. And are there any questions? Is that enough, John?
That's enough. Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? All right. Can I?
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Unless there's some other pressing things to be said at the moment,
I want to tell Brian, thank you for everything. All of y'all, thank y'all for everything y'all are doing, because I've already posted up the signs that he's speaking about, the transportation division provided, because he's been working with them, as well as there's a flashing 25-mile-an-hour sign at the end going into Warm Springs Park. I live on that corner. So you could go back and forth and play Frogger all day long and potentially get run over before they put those up. And people are slamming on their brakes now when they see that flashing. And a lot of people didn't realize it was 25 miles an hour. So Brian, thank you for keeping my family, my kids safe, us safe. It's wonderful.
Well,
John, I have a 30-second question for John.
All right.
Or for anyone. Okay. What is going on with Fourth West? It's out of control. This has been way too long. I don't see them working some days. What is going on?
You mean with truck traffic?
No, they've blocked off several streets for through traffic because of the pipeline. Like, what is going on? And then the businesses on Fourth West weren't notified about this, and we never heard about it. It's just like all of a sudden you can't turn down your street anymore.
Yeah, what's going on there? Does anybody know? I've seen it, but I don't know. They're digging up the street, right? It's like sewer line, maybe.
Yeah. So I only know a little bit, which is just that I was shocked to learn that there's not an actual ordinance that requires and specifies when and how notice is to be given for improvements to public utilities, and that typically the city relies on there's no notice requirements if it's the state doing the changes. I don't know if the state's doing them now or if it's a utility company, but what I've asked is that the city attorney's office draft an ordinance that addresses this specifically and formalizes how requirements are supposed to go, but I don't know why the delay is occurring on Fourth West.
All right.
Sorry, I don't have more.
It's okay. It's blocking a couple crosswalks. So when I walk over to Mountain West, I actually have to jump over those pipes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So just wondering.
Good question.
My husband's with the city, and I'm trying to get him to find out. So if you want to email me, he'll let you know. He's a deputy engineer. So I was calling him as we're on the phone to try to find out for you.
Randy,
John,
I
I
think
just
you
had-
need to be on the board.
I gotta make sure I'm okay with that first.
All right.
Hey,
All right,
John, I just
everybody.
had a quick
Let
thing
me
I
know,
forgot.
and I'll email them what it is, okay?
So, John, there's two things.
Okay.
The last thing, or well, one of them is when you go to the site, and I urge everybody to do this. Dan Love has done a lot of work, background work on digging up existing statutes that the city can use, and also that the citizens can use. And a couple of them are for reporting a problem. So these environmental contamination related problems. That includes, dusty, uncovered loads, noise ordinance violations, motorcycles and, exhibitionist cars, et cetera. But, late at night, early in the morning, these things are actually enforceable. So when you go to the site, look for those things, because this is the citizens, the residents, these are tools for the residents to use to bring attention to issues. Sorry, that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to end the meeting?
Oh, Brian, what site are you talking about? Can you put a link there in the chat?
That's going to be our site, Anna. And so that it's going to be CHNC-SLC.org, and I'm going to send it to you, Anna. And probably not tomorrow, but when do you think we get that up? Once I get it handed to you, probably the next day or so.
I don't know. We can talk about it.
Okay. But anyway, be looking at that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, everybody.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Barbara. Do I hear a second on that emotion?
Second.
Emotion. All right, meeting is now adjourned. We'll see you next month on the 16th of September. Thank you, everybody. Good night.